In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and everything that was contained in both. And then on the sixth day, He created man. Everything God did, God made, at the end of each passing day, that He created a certain kind of creatures, He would look and the Bible would say, behold, it was good. And then the completion, at the completion of everything that God made, the Bible says that everything was very good. The totality, the whole ensemble of creation was very good. Not just good, it was very good. Everything reflected the nature of God in their own way. And God was the God of life. There was no death at that point. God did not intend death to be present in His creation. Even in inanimate objects like the earth we lived in. God did not intend for the earth to have an expiration date in the beginning. We, in our minds, after the fall, after we have sinned, when death entered the world through sin, then our mentalities told us everything has a beginning and has an end. That's not God. How God designed everything. We were created with eternal life. That doesn't mean not just unending, but quality that God intended there to be. Our fulfillment was in the fact that we were created human, reflecting the image and likeness of God. And then, sad to say, we all know the story, sin entered into the world and death through sin. And between sinning and the ultimate consequence of sin, which is death, we suffer sicknesses. And in the Gospels, the sicknesses represent the presence of sin. The will of God for us is not just to be healed of our sicknesses. You know, every time we have a sickness, okay, God heals me. That's part of it. But what is the root of all these sicknesses? It's the presence of sin. Which is why when Jesus asked, and this will be the reading 2 days from now, when Jesus asked the grumblers, when He healed this paralytic, He asked them, which is easier to do? Proclaim forgiveness of sins, or say to the paralytic, get up, take up your pallet, and walk? When He said that, He was equating healing and with forgiveness of sin. Because if sins are taken away, the consequences of sin will be gone as well. And so that is what we want, is for sin to be not present in our lives. See, sin is an enemy. It's a disease that afflicts every human being. It's an enemy. I remember what Zacharias prophesied. He said, after he regained his voice, one of his prophecies was that the will of God is spoken long ago through the prophets. The will of God is for us, His children, to be delivered out of the hands of our enemies, foremost of which is sin, to be delivered out of the hands of our enemies so that we might be able to serve Him without fear. Because before sin, that was our fulfillment, serving God, cultivating and keeping the home that He entrusted to us and gifted us with. That's eternal life. I say that because I just would like to zero in on this one verse in the gospel today, where Jesus healed the mother of Peter, and Luke says, immediately got up and served them. immediately resumed the eternal life that God intended for her, that was disrupted by the presence of sin in her life. See, the silly idea of, well, I'll just sin anyway, right? Because my sins are pardoned anyway. I'm forgiven anyway, so might as well just live my life and sin again. That is very, very ridiculous and silly, because the reason for our deliverance is so that we can be free from sin. It's like, imagine yourself, I don't know, having COVID, couldn't breathe, you're on a respirator, you're in the hospital, you're alone, secluded, isolated, and then, let's say, a miracle cure just was discovered, and then given to you, and then you're healed. Would you think, oh, now that I'm healed, I want to go back to the symptoms. I want to go back to having a respirator into my, a tube into my mouth and down to my stomach. I want to lay there, I want to be this and that. It's crazy, right? It's foolish to want to go back to that which you've been delivered from. We must understand that. It's also like the prodigal son choosing the pig pen over the house of his father, which he was delivered from sin into. Let us understand that. Serving God is not a burden. It is the fulfillment that we long, each of us longs for. It is the eternal life that will fill the void that we always are anxious to fill. It's the serving of God. Otherwise, we would choose only to be enslaved again and forfeit the beautiful gift, the amazing gift that God paid for with His life in order to provide for us. Let us be actively involved in the service of God, because believe it or not, that is the answer to the questions of our heart and our mind. Not in theological form, not in words that are profound and deep that would say this and that to the questions in our minds and hearts. No, we live the life, then our answers are questioned. Then we will discover the way it is in the kingdom of our God.